At the University of Toledo, we are surrounded by experts. And we tap into those experts here on Rocket Talk.
Imagine being able to put on makeup or fix your hair during the drive to work because you don't have to worry about the wheel. We've heard about autonomous vehicles for years now. Companies, investors, and engineers, like our guest today, are working to make that a reality. But there are still plenty of hurdles to overcome and some things that all drivers need to know. Our guests today on Rocket Talk are Drs. Cheng and Devinder Kaur from Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. Dr. Cheng is the department chair, and Dr. Kaur is a professor in the department. Thanks to both of you for being here on Rocket Talk today. Dr. Kaur, let's start with you. Now, this is a question I know engineers don't like to answer, so apologies in advance, but can you give us at least a time frame? Will we see autonomous vehicles on the roads in our area, let's say in my lifetime, and when?
In some form or fashion, they are already there. Example, you see Tesla driving on our streets in Toledo, Ohio, and most of the other brands of vehicles also have some kind of advanced driver's assistant technology installed in them, like lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, front collision avoidance system, automatic highlight adjustment, and headlight adjustments, and things of that nature. So these are the technologies which assist the driver in making certain decision. And Tesla has recently announced a completely self-driving vehicle, which is like self-navigation in the highway streets scenarios, not on the city streets, which is their next plan.
But from everything I've read, that Tesla, what they're calling fully self-driving, there's still a human behind the wheel, and Tesla is saying you need to keep both hands on the wheel at all times. How far are we from, Dr. Cheng, a fully autonomous vehicle where a human can be completely hands-off?
Sure, Jason. First of all, thank you for having us here today. And this is a very important topic. And you talked about the autonomous driving, autonomous vehicle. And we know autonomous vehicles are the ones that can sense the environment and then navigate safely in the environment without human intervention. So there are 6 levels of autonomy. Usually people think about autonomous driving. From user perspective, you can roughly understand it by level 0, no automation, and level 1, hands on wheel, and it's kind of assistant driving. Level 2, which is hands off, and you can let the vehicle drive by itself somehow and still expect some intervention. Then level 3 is kind of eyes off. And level 4 is kind of mind off. Level 5 is the highest level of autonomy, so the wheels is not needed. So if you consider the question you just brought up, and we can think about the current market, the vehicles operating and the level 3 and above is very small fraction of the market right now. Mm-hmm. But we are expecting larger and larger percentage of the market be the vehicles operating at level 3 and above in the future.
So 3 and above, what, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, less than that?
I hope it could be in our real life in 10 years.
Okay. What types of vehicles do you believe we'll see on levels 3 and above first? I mean, are we talking like semi-tractor trailers or taxi cabs, or maybe something different that just delivers food like DoorDash? What do you think we'll see?
Actually, it's already in our real life. If you read the information publicly available online, there are companies called Waymo having the so-called driverless taxi service in some part of Phoenix, Arizona since 2019. So the short answer to the question is there are already service providers providing the autonomous taxi service.
Okay. Dr. Kaur, we had a chance to visit, well, we all did earlier this week, and you have created your own autonomous navigation system in a simulated multi-lane environment. I want to make sure I get that right. It's able to predict the behavior of other drivers on the road. And while I was there, we didn't see any crashes on the simulation. Can you tell us about what you created and why that's so important?
So we have simulated the autonomous navigation system in a multi-lane environment, where I think the strength or uniqueness of our system is that we try to mimic the mind of the driver, okay, in terms of fuzzy logic rules. So like in a similar, if you are driving a car and the distance of the car in front of you is a certain amount and the relative distance is shrinking, you would like to slow down. It's a common sense. So these kind of rules we have implemented, and our system is based on fuzzy logic inference system. We have two systems. One controls the speed and the other controls the lane changing. So the strength of our system is that it provides explainable intelligence, so that we can go back why the vehicle did make a particular decision and what was the logic behind that, what rules did it fire. So that is the strength of our system, that it provides you intelligence in terms of easy to comprehend fuzzy rules.
And I noticed that politeness is one of the factors you can adjust. Tell me about that, and why is that important?
Oh, in that simulation, the simulation was created and you could test it in 5 scenarios, like lane changing, and then lane blocking, merging from the on-ramp scenario, uphill, and these simulations were tested under various control situations, that we could control the number of vehicles entering our system, and we can control the ratio of trucks to the vehicles, the normal cars ratio. We could impose the speed limit. Okay, you are driving at a particular cruise control, and we could politeness factor was there. We could also control how much distance we want to maintain between the car, between your car and the vehicle in front. That can vary from 2 meters to 7 meters. So they were all parameters of our simulation, and politeness, as you say, is one of them, which just like common sense, it more the politeness factor, the more the vehicle is willing to give way to the other cars which are trying to merge into your lanes in front of you.
Dr. Cheng, speaking of politeness, I know one of the companies is sending human drivers into New York City for mapping purposes, and they know that New York City is going to be a big challenge because drivers aren't extremely polite in New York City. The roads are confusing. You have people walking on sidewalks and crossing the street seemingly everywhere. What are some other challenges that programmers face?
I believe, if I recall correctly, the company is Waymo again, and they are basically taking the challenge of the environment in the urban scenarios. The additional challenges may include, say, harsh weather conditions and unexpected road situations. Imagine a heavy, like a rain day and a dense snowfall day. Then the sensors used to give the data for self-navigation may not report the accurate data. So that's definitely a challenge.
Okay. And I think human fear is a big thing to overcome. A lot of people, a lot of Tesla drivers who have engaged the autonomous mode have said they don't like it. And these are Tesla fans. They don't trust it. So how big of a issue will fear be, and how will the industry, so to speak, overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. The fear factor indeed is an important factor in the adoption process of autonomous vehicle, Jason. So there are studies about having volunteer riders in the so-called self-driving car, and usually after 5 to 10 minutes, people get more comfortable of sitting in the self-driving car. So humans generally would be able to develop a sense of trust after a couple of minutes quickly. And there are other technologies that may be able to alleviate this fear, such as a human-machine interface, having the information about how the car is going to do about the navigation and display it to the human passengers in the car, that can help alleviate some of the fear factor.
Dr. Kaur, this is probably the last question we're going to get to, but I think it's an important one. Ethics, that's a big issue. And, in a terrible hypothetical scenario, a human driver may have to choose in a split second between hitting a pedestrian or a bus full of children. And I know that's terrible, but sometimes that happens. How does a machine make a decision like that?
So this particular scenario will arise, I think, more in the city driving situation. So in that case, I would like to suggest that the distance in the city driving scenario from the vehicle in front of you should be maintained little more, so that there is more stopping time in case of such unpredictable events happening. So that is what I would say. If it is an autonomous navigation system within a city, so the stopping criteria we should give more time so that we should be able to avoid these kind of situation. And all these autonomous navigation system anyhow will always be able to give control to the human being. So you can always take control of the system.
Okay. Well, doctors, we are out of time. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for joining us today on Rocket Talk. That's all the time we have. We'll see you next time with more Rocket Talk from the University of Toledo.